Imagine a nation where 15 million people, armed with nothing but hoes and seeds, achieved in just 12 months what the world deemed impossible. This isn't science fiction. This is Burkina Faso in 2024. When global powers said, "It can't be done," Burkina Faso responded with action. When the World Bank declared, "It takes at least 10 years to achieve food self-sufficiency," 15 million citizens proved them wrong. What the West doesn't want you to know is this an African nation just carried out a $2 billion food revolution without a single cent of foreign aid. The media isn't reporting it. Governments are pretending not to see. But what is happening in Burkina Faso is changing the political and economic map of Africa forever. To understand why this is so earth-shattering, we must go back to 2022. Burkina Faso was one of the poorest countries in the world, completely dependent on international food aid. The child malnutrition rate was as high as 35%. Over 8 million people suffered from chronic hunger, and 70% of the population depended on agriculture, but couldn't produce enough to feed themselves. For decades, international organizations insisted that foreign aid and long-term development programs were the only way. We were told that Africa needed at least $50 billion in aid annually to solve poverty. We were convinced that African people were incapable of self-reliance, lacking the technology and resources to save themselves. They were dead wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. Because what they didn't account for was the power of human will combined with vision and true leadership. Until Ibrahim Traoré appeared, everything began to change from the ground up. Ibrahim Traoré is not your typical politician. Born in 1988, he is a young geological engineer who witnessed his country's poverty and dependence firsthand. Unlike previous leaders, Traoré did not come from the political elite or wealthy families. He grew up in an ordinary farming family and understood the hardship of waiting for foreign food aid. When Traoré took leadership in September 2022, his message was simple yet powerful. We don't need anyone to save us. We will save ourselves. This country has enough land, enough water, and enough people to feed not only its 22 million citizens, but also to export food to the entire region. But unlike previous empty promises, Traoré had a concrete plan he called the National Food Self-Sufficiency Program. This plan consisted of 3 clear phases. Phase 1, National Mobilization Law. Within the first 60 days, the government would mobilize every family to participate in food production, from traditional rural areas to urban centers. Each family would be provided with free seeds and basic tools. Phase 2, Technical Support Law. Deploy a team of agricultural technicians to every village and neighborhood to provide training on modern, sustainable farming techniques. Use simple but effective technology suited to local conditions. Phase 3, System Building Law. Create a network for procurement, storage, and distribution of food entirely controlled by the people and the government, independent of any foreign organization. And most importantly, it would all be done by the people of Burkina Faso, with the resources of Burkina Faso. No aid, no debt, no dependence. This was a revolution of the people, by the people, and for the people. And then, the miracle began. November 15, 2022 will be recorded as the day Burkina Faso changed forever. There were no coercive loudspeakers, no formal propaganda, just a simple message passed from village to village, from family to family. Let's help our country become self-sufficient in food. Let's plant to live, plant to be proud. The response was immediate and spread like a storm. In Ouagadougou, the nation's capital, more than 500,000 families registered for the program within the first 7 days. Every vacant piece of land, from backyards to public spaces, was turned into small vegetable gardens. Workers, teachers, and students, after their work and studies, took up hoes and shovels to tend to their plots. In Bobo Dioulasso, the country's second-largest city, the scene was even more impressive. Mrs. Aminata Ouedraogo, a 45-year-old primary school teacher, shared La. I had never grown anything besides small potted plants on my balcony, but when I heard the president's message, I knew this was my chance to do something for my children, for their future. Every afternoon after teaching, my neighbors and I worked together on the community garden we created from a vacant lot. In rural areas like Kaya, Tenkodogo, and Gawa, where people were accustomed to farming but lacked technology and support, the change was even more profound. Thousands of farming families expanded their cultivation areas, applying new techniques guided by young technicians. Mr. Burema Sawadogo, a 58-year-old farmer in Yatenga province, said La. In 30 years of farming, I have never seen the country care about us like this. They didn't just give us seeds, they taught us how to grow more effectively. For the first time in my life, I believe my children won't have to leave the village to find a living. What was astonishing was not just the scale of participation, but the unprecedented spirit of unity. Religious, ethnic, and social class boundaries seemed to disappear before the common goal. The Masi people worked alongside the Fulani, Christians planted vegetables next to Muslims, and wealthy families shared tools with poor ones. A small story moved me deeply, La. A 12-year-old boy named Musa, from the village of Tiebele, spent his entire savings of 5,000 CFA francs to buy tomato seeds. When asked why, he said, "My parents told me our country won't have to beg for food from other countries anymore. I want to be a part of that." Those tiny tomato seeds later yielded over 200 kilograms of tomatoes, enough to supply the entire village during the dry season. But this food revolution was not just based on emotion and enthusiasm. It was built on a foundation of science, tight organization, and outstanding efficiency. The Traoré government created an entirely new logistics system called the National Community Production Network. This organizational system operated on an inverted pyramid model, starting from the base of families and local communities. Each village and neighborhood was divided into groups of 20 to 30 families with a democratically elected leader. This leader coordinated production activities and served as a link to higher levels of the system. Technology was integrated intelligently and appropriately. Instead of importing expensive machinery that families couldn't use, the program focused on simple but highly effective technologies. Drip irrigation systems were made from recycled plastic bottles, organic fertilizer was produced from household waste, and progress was reported via simple SMS messages. To ensure quality, the government deployed over 5,000 young agricultural technicians, intensively trained in sustainable farming techniques suitable for the local climate. These technicians not only provided technical guidance, but also measured and monitored the productivity of each area and crop type. Take the specific example of Ganzourgou province, where Mr. Abdoulaye Compaoré, a 28-year-old agricultural engineer, was in charge of 15 villages with a total of 3,200 participating families. He and his team designed an intelligent crop rotation process law, planting maize and beans during the rainy season, switching to green vegetables and citrus fruits in the dry season, while maintaining a small-scale poultry farm to provide organic fertilizer for the crops. The results after 6 months of implementation, La maize yield increased by 180% compared to the previous season. Green vegetable production increased by 220%, and most importantly, 98% of families in the area became fully self-sufficient in basic foods. Mr. Compaoré shared La. What's amazing is not the technology we used, but the people's spirit of learning and continuous improvement. They not only applied what we taught, but also contributed their own creative ideas. One of the most impressive innovations was the community seed bank system. Each village had a small warehouse to store high-quality seeds, managed by a group of local volunteers. Farmers could borrow seeds for planting and repay the loan by contributing a portion of the seeds from their harvest. This system not only ensured a sustainable supply of seeds, but also fostered a spirit of responsibility and solidarity within the community. July 15, 2023, will be forever remembered in the history of Burkina Faso, It was the day the government announced an achievement no one could believe. Within 8 months of starting the program, Burkina Faso had achieved 85% basic food self-sufficiency, meaning 18.7 million out of a total population of 22 million could produce enough food to feed themselves without relying on foreign aid. The numbers speak for themselves. The production of maize, the country's staple food, increased from 1.2 million tons in 2022 to 3.8 million tons in 2023. Rice production rose from 350,000 tons to 1.1 million tons. Particularly impressive was the production of green vegetables and fruits, which increased fivefold compared to the previous year, not only meeting domestic demand, but also beginning to be exported to neighboring countries like Mali, Niger, and Ghana. However, the most impressive figure was not the food production, but the change in spirit and national pride. For the first time in decades, the people of Burkina Faso did not have to wait for food aid trucks from abroad. Instead, they saw trucks laden with agricultural products they produced themselves, traveling from village to village, from province to province. Ibrahim Traoré, standing before thousands of farmers at the ceremony celebrating this achievement, said with an emotional voice, "Today, we have not only fed ourselves, but we have also shown the world that Africa does not need pity. Africa needs respect. And that respect must begin with us respecting ourselves. But this is just the beginning of a larger revolution, a change that could reshape the entire future of Africa." Because what happened in Burkina Faso is not just about food, but about belief, about self-reliance, and about proving that African people can solve their own problems without anyone from the outside coming to save them. Within 12 months of the program's launch, the changes were clearly visible across Burkina Faso. Economically, agricultural GDP grew by 34% in just 1 year, directly contributing an additional $1.2 billion to the national economy. More remarkably, food import costs fell from $800 million to $120 million, creating huge savings that could be invested in other sectors like education and health. Socially, the lives of millions of families have completely changed. The child malnutrition rate dropped from 35% to 12% in just 1 year. The unemployment rate in rural areas fell from 28% to 8%, as hundreds of thousands of young people found employment in activities related to food production, processing, and distribution. The psychological and spiritual changes were even more profound. The people of Burkina Faso, especially the youth, began to see a bright future right in their homeland, instead of dreaming of migrating to Europe or America. The rate of illegal migration from Burkina Faso to Europe decreased by 60% in 2023, according to data from the International Organization for Migration. Madame Fatoumata Kabore, a 34-year-old mother of 4 in the village of Rayo, shared "Before, my husband always said he would have to find a way to Libya and then to Europe to earn money to support the family. We lived in constant anxiety. Now we have our own vegetable garden, we can sell the surplus at the market, our children have enough to eat and go to school. For the first time in my life, I feel proud to be from Burkina Faso." Before and after satellite images show an incredible transformation. Areas that were once arid and desolate have become lush green carpets. At night, instead of darkness, many rural areas are now illuminated by lights from agricultural processing cooperatives operating 24/7 to meet market demand. The impact of the Burkina Faso food revolution has spread far beyond its national borders. In the West African region, neighboring countries like Mali, Niger, and Senegal have begun sending observation delegations to learn from this model. Malian President Assimi Goïta, in a public statement, called Burkina Faso a beacon for all of Africa on self-reliance and sustainable development. Globally, the initial reaction was skepticism, then surprise, and finally, undeniable success. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, after a visit to Burkina Faso in October 2023, stated What I have witnessed in Burkina Faso has completely changed my perspective on Africa's development potential. This is not just an agricultural success. It is a testament to the self-reliance and creativity of the African people. International organizations like the FAO and the World Food Programme, which had once claimed that Burkina Faso would need at least 20 more years of aid to become food self-sufficient, now have to admit they were wrong. An FAO report from December 2023 noted the Burkina Faso model has demonstrated that with the right policies and full popular participation, a country can achieve food self-sufficiency in a much shorter time than previously estimated. Within the African diaspora worldwide, the story of Burkina Faso has become a tremendous source of inspiration. Remittances sent to Burkina Faso increased by 150% in 2023, not only because of the improved economic situation, but also because of a rekindled national pride. Many Burkinabe living abroad have decided to return to their homeland to invest and contribute to its development. What is noteworthy is the reaction from multinational agricultural corporations and international aid organizations. Many organizations have quietly reduced or redirected their aid programs for Burkina Faso, not because they don't want to help, but simply because Burkina Faso no longer needs them. A senior official from a major aid organization, who wished to remain anonymous, admitted the success of Burkina Faso forces us to rethink our entire traditional aid model. Perhaps instead of giving them fish, we should help them master the pond. This is not just a short-term success. Ibrahim Traoré and the government of Burkina Faso have a long-term vision expressed in the Comprehensive Self-Sufficiency Plan 2030. Phase 2 of the plan, scheduled for implementation in the next 6 to 12 months, will focus on agricultural industrialization and food processing. The goal is to transform Burkina Faso from an exporter of raw agricultural products into an exporter of high-value-added processed foods. Phase 3, over the next 2 to 5 years, will expand the model to other sectors such as renewable energy, education, and health. The ambition is to turn Burkina Faso into a model of sustainable development for all of Africa, proving that African nations can develop without depending on foreign aid or investment. The 2030 vision that Traoré has laid out is a Burkina Faso that is completely self-sufficient in food, energy, and education, while also becoming an agricultural export hub for the entire West African region. He predicts that by 2030, Burkina Faso will have the highest GDP per capita among landlocked countries in Africa. And most importantly, this model has been designed to be replicable. The government of Burkina Faso has begun sharing its experience and sending experts to assist other countries in the region. Mali began implementing a similar program in January 2024, and Niger is expected to launch one in June 2024. So what can we learn from the Burkina Faso revolution? The story of Burkina Faso teaches us 3 important lessons that can be applied to any community in the world. Lesson 1: the power of a clear and feasible vision. Ibrahim Traoré did not promise fanciful or unattainable things. He presented a specific goal, food self-sufficiency in 12 months, with clear, measurable steps. This created trust and motivation for the entire nation. When people know exactly what they are aiming for and what they need to do, they are willing to give their all. Lesson 2: the importance of respecting local wisdom and capabilities. Instead of imposing solutions from the outside, the Burkina Faso program was built on a deep understanding of local conditions, culture, and people's abilities. They used appropriate technology, not necessarily the most advanced. They combine traditional knowledge with modern techniques. This shows that every community has its own resources and wisdom that just need to be harnessed correctly. Lesson 3: the power of popular participation and collective responsibility. The Burkina Faso food revolution succeeded not because of a few outstanding individuals, but because of the active participation of millions of ordinary people. From urban families growing vegetables on their rooftops, to farmers expanding their cultivated land, everyone felt they had a responsibility and could contribute to the collective success. These lessons apply not only to Burkina Faso, but to any community in the world, because at its core, this is a story about universal human values: law, pride, resilience, solidarity, and self-reliance. These are values that any community, anywhere in the world, can harness to create positive change. So the question is, if 15 million people in Burkina Faso can create a $2 billion food revolution with just hoes, shovels, and seeds, what can you do in your community? Change doesn't require a huge government budget, cutting-edge technology from multinational corporations, or foreign experts to come and teach. The story of Burkina Faso proves that change only needs three things: a clear vision that everyone can understand and believe in, the active participation of the community, and the persistent determination to see it through. Today, right where you live, you can start by first identifying a specific problem in your community that you feel you can contribute to solving. It doesn't have to be as big as national food security. It could be improving the living environment in your neighborhood, supporting families in need, or enhancing the quality of education for local children. Second, connect with others who share your concern. Collective power is always greater than individual strength. As the people of Burkina Faso have shown, when everyone works towards a common goal, nothing is impossible. Third, start with small but concrete actions. Don't wait for perfect conditions or ample resources. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are, right now. Because as Ibrahim Traoré said, we don't need to be superheroes to create change. We just need to be responsible human beings, responsible for ourselves and our community. And when millions of such people act together, we will create miracles. The real heroes don't wear capes or possess superpowers. They hold hoes, shovels, seeds, and an unshakable belief in a better future. They are ordinary people who dare to act, refuse to wait, and build change themselves, one step at a time. These heroes could be the teacher Aminata from Bobo Dioulasso, who turned a vacant lot into a community garden. It could be the farmer Burema from Yatenga, who expanded his cultivation to feed not only his family, but also contribute to the self-sufficiency of his entire country. Or it could be the 12-year-old boy Musa, who spent all his savings on tomato seeds because he wanted his country to no longer have to beg for food from others. Today, their story has inspired millions around the world. It reminds us that in an era where we often feel helpless in the face of major societal problems, real power still lies in the hands of ordinary people like us. If this story inspires you, please like this video so the algorithm can bring it to more people. Share it with your friends and family to spread the positive message. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more stories about the power of humanity and our ability to create positive change ourselves. Let's celebrate the silent heroes of Burkina Faso and remind the world that true power lies not in the skyscrapers of multinational corporations or in the meeting rooms of international organizations, but in the very hands and hearts of ordinary people who have the courage to believe in themselves and act for a better future.